Frostland Survivor Man here with you, Frostman. No Joey. This is a recipe that Joey cannot participate in simply because of Joey's hatred of plants. This one is bacon wrapped meatloaf. Now, I also smoke this. I make a bacon wrapped smoked meatloaf, which is a little smaller, but it cooks longer in the smoker and takes a lot of time. This one's just a baked meatloaf. My wife and I are going to be having company later on this week, and I thought I'd just make this ahead of time. So I'm going to go over the ingredients with you, what we have, what we use, and why we use it. So bacon wrapped meatloaf. There we go. So here's what we have. Okay, we're going to start with our meat, our proteins. We're going to have 2 pounds of ground beef and 2 eggs. I'm going to add to that some bread that I'm going to grind up in my NutriBullet here. But you can see something in the bottom there. That's half and half. And I like to add a little half and half to it because the half and half gets in the bread and it keeps the meatloaf moist. Sorghum is my sweetener. I got addicted to sorghum when I lived in the South. After enlisting in the Army, I was never anywhere but the South. Well, no, that's not true. Afghanistan was not the South, and neither was California. And of course, if we're going to make a bacon-wrapped meatloaf, we're going to have bacon. And this is the best bacon in the world. If you're in any part of northern Wisconsin, you know Newski's, you know their bacon. This is compliments of my good friend Eli. Thank you so much, Eli. We're going to use this bacon to wrap our meatloaf today. So I'm going to get mixing. I'm going to mix the meat and the eggs and the bread crumb sort of paste, mix those all together, and then we'll take a break. I'll mix those on fast speed, and then we'll take a break and we'll go from there. All right. First part of our mixing is done, and now we're going to add our sorghum. If you can see this is from Lambert's Cafe, and if you've never been to Lambert's Cafe, the closest one to us is in Sikeston, Missouri, and it is well worth the trip. It is so much fun. There's also one just outside of Branson, Missouri, and where's that other location? I think it's in Gulf Shores, Alabama, actually. Randy, is it in Gulf Shores, Alabama? I think that's where it is. So I'm not going to add a whole lot of sorghum, but enough to kind of get through this meat. Another thing that sorghum does is it helps break down the meat and make it less chewy is not the right word, but I can't think of another one right now. It tenderizes it a little more. There we go. That's what I wanted. Tenderizes it a little more. So there's that. Now we also have to add our spices, which are salt and pepper. I'm going to mix it up again, but before I do that, I'm going to add a few saltine cracker crumbs just because, yeah, I need it to be a little bit stickier than it is right now. So I'm going to put in some saltines, and you can watch that on fast. Okay, now I had it on time lapse, which I didn't mean to do. I wanted to mix that and narrate it as I did it. Here's what we have. We have this bowl is for the filling of the meatloaf. And did I forget to mention that this was a filled bacon wrapped meatloaf? Well, it is. So it's going to have 1 package of mozzarella cheese. You can see there's spaghetti sauce in there and half a cup or so of minced onion. About 2 cups of spaghetti sauce is what you're going to need. I don't measure anything. You've noticed that. Generally speaking, I don't measure anything at all. Joey is the measurer. I am not. But the reason I have to give you these measurements is because my mom's going to watch this video and she's going to want to know how much of this and how much of that did you put in there. There it is. Now the meatloaf mix itself is sitting in the fridge, so I'm going to get the cookie sheet and get that ready to go so that we can start doing this meatloaf. This is going to be really fun. Also, while we're waiting, I'm going to set the oven to 339 degrees. Here is our parchment paper, and it's important to put it on the roll the way you're going to roll it. Now, I'm going to roll it on this cookie sheet, but I'm not going to bake it on this cookie sheet. So I'm going to put the meat on here to help me hold this down and get it the shape I want to get it. And once it's chilled, it's a little bit easier to work with the meat. At least I find it to be that way. And you can see completely now why Joey couldn't be here for this one. This is just not his bowl of cake. Okay. Getting the meat all shapey. We'll spread that out a little more. Put this last little bit in here. That inside there. And we just spoon it on. Want to make sure that we don't get too close to the edge because we want to seal the edges as much as we can. And I was kind of thinking this is something that I never made even once for Merle. Merle's kind of a meat and potatoes guy, so I'm not sure how some of the meals I made for him didn't go over very well. You know? But this one, he is a big meatloaf guy. Merle is a really big fan of meatloaf, in point of fact. So, and we want to leave that flap on the envelope there so the envelope will seal. Okay, there we have that. And now we're just going to roll this up. Okay, there it is. And even with that flap, it didn't quite seal the way I wanted it to. And now we're going to do the bacon part, which is the most fun. And my bacon here, I want to make sure I have some fairly long pieces to do this. So I have to sort through it a little bit. Oh, you guys just didn't want to stick together. This is peppered bacon, so there's going to be a little extra pepper in this meatloaf. And I'm going to lift it and tuck it underneath. And the same thing over here. I'm going to lift it on this corner and tuck it underneath. And you can't see that, sorry. That's one of the things I can't stand is bad camera work, and here I am doing it myself. Okay, so then we bring the bacon over, just like that. And bring the bacon over again, just like that. Tuck it underneath. And we keep getting bacon slices that we can wrap around there. I want one on this top right up here. Okay. Seal that end off a little bit. Bacon, foot of bacon. Now, if it were not like bacon pieces, like what I have here, it would wrap a little bit better. It would wrap a little bit glossier, but it's not going to make it to taste any different. So we're going to wrap and tuck and wrap and tuck. And what's the rule about bacon, Merle? You can never have too much. I think that's what the rule about bacon is. According to Merle philosophy, you can never have too much bacon. Boy, this is fun, isn't it? You can see why I do this when my darling honey wabbit isn't at home. I'll clean up all the mess before she sees it. Don't look at me in that tone of voice, Lexi. Oh yeah, there we go. Really getting her wrapped up nice. And on the back side here, where I'm tucking the bacon underneath, that's gonna make that hold together better. The bacon I need. So the bacon that I'm not gonna use goes back in the bag for breakfast tomorrow. We'll put that back in the fridge. Now this is where we are, the men from the boys separating. We want to pick up this whole meatloaf and just get it in the pan here. Okay, there it is, nicely in the pan. I'm going to get my scissors, which are right behind the camera where you can't see them, and cut off this excess parchment paper. See, and that little trick is just like lifting a leg casualty on a gurney. All right, now we'll put it in the oven at 339 degrees. There it is. There is our bacon wrapped meatloaf. And it did split a little bit at the ends, but it's not such a big deal. We'll cut it and have it for dinner. I'm going to put it back in the oven. The oven's off, so I'm just going to put it back in the oven and let it cool down in there. And then we'll put it in the fridge later and have it for dinner. Thanks so much for hanging out with me again. I sure do appreciate it. And you can see, of course, Joey couldn't be a part of this. This is the one he couldn't be a part of. So I'm appreciative. I love when you leave a comment, say what you think. That's really helpful to know what to do in the future. So there it is, bacon wrapped meatloaf. The next time I make this, we're gonna do it in the smoker, and it's gonna take about 8 hours to complete the project.